Hi, good morning, everybody. This is Ray with WeSpeak.com. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the Biden gun safety program, which actually is anything but safety and hurts America. And today we're going to talk with Justin Nazaroff from Fenix Ammunition. They're a company down in Michigan who is doing great things to support the cause of the American people. So, Justin, welcome to the show. We thank you for having you on today. And can you tell us a little bit about this Biden gun plan?
Sure. So, as many people are aware, the Democrat Party has been going hard after gun rights for quite some time. This has been something that's been happening for 50 or 60 years. But in this particular case, Joe Biden's administration put a lot of emphasis on specific details of what they would like to do as far as gun control. And unfortunately, we're in a situation where they have control over all three branches of government, at least for the time being. So we're in a unique scenario where they're in a position to actually make some of these things happen, unlike in previous administrations where they had discussed gun control, but most of the time it was very non-specific, or they didn't have the votes to make anything happen, so it became kind of a non-issue. Specifically, there's some things about, basically everything on Joe Biden's gun plan is something that we vehemently oppose. But there are a couple of things in particular that are on sort of the wish list, including, of course, banning one of the most popular rifles in America, the AR-15. Specifically, they want to have a mandatory buyback program where people will be forced to sell their lawfully or legally owned items to the government at a set price. And if you don't comply, then of course you'll face criminal action up to and including felonies that could put you in prison for a number of years. From our standpoint, being an ammunition manufacturing company, there is a provision in there to outright ban the online sale of ammunition. And so being that is 100% of our business, it's just not something that we can tolerate as even being discussed, especially since it really has there is no scientific basis to say that would have an impact on gun violence in this country whatsoever.
Some of the things I also read in there about it seems they cover laws that are already in place, which don't make any sense to me. But when they talk about banning the gun ammunition sales and they talk about strengthening the laws, did I read that right? Strengthening the laws, which would be red flag laws?
Yeah, that's correct. So as of right now, red flag laws are being rolled out in various states across the country in various forms. But as we know with most things that the Democrats propose, they want to have federal national control over those types of policies. We know that red flag laws are a violation of civil liberties. Effectively, what they do is allow judges to issue an order that will take away a person's lawfully owned firearms based on the perception of threat. So we're moving into the minority. We've been here for some time, of course, but this is true Minority Report, Tom Cruise, pre-crime type stuff where a judge can issue an order to take away someone's firearms. And actually in some states, they're allowing the police to make that judgment call on the scene without a judge's order. But they're also in some cases allowing judges to make these orders based on the opinions of an ex-wife or a neighbor, somebody like that, who they don't have, they may not even be a party to the transaction, but they can make somebody's life very difficult from a legal perspective based on a judge making a judgment call or a police officer making a judgment call based on the opinions of somebody that may not even like the person who is the firearm owner themselves.
One of the other things I was very disappointed reading some of this, and I tell you what, I was actually sickened when I read some of this because it's so ridiculous. But how many people out there are under the phony idea that this will not affect them? They go, well, hey, I've got my firearms. I'm not going to buy anymore. I don't need it. Then they go down and see another line. Tell me if I'm wrong. There's a line in there that says limit stockpiling. That literally to me means people that have the guns, they've had them their whole life. Now the government may be able to come in and take your collection?
Sure. So I'm not sure about the provisions of taking away a collection, but what they want to do is slow the ability of people to build collections. So here at Fenix Ammo, we do firearm transfers for people who purchase things out of state or online. We handle the transfer paperwork. And I mean, we have customers who are collectors that buy several guns a month, and it's because it's a particular piece they found, it completes a collection, it's something new that they wanted. I mean, you know, as you probably know, there are many enthusiasts in this community, myself being one of them, who treat guns like buying tools, right? You go and you buy a wrench set, you need this hammer, you buy a tool for this specific job. You know, we don't see firearms as some kind, something out of the ordinary. It's a tool for a specific purpose, and each firearm has a different job. Some are for hunting, some are for self-defense, skeet, trap shooting, etc. So what they really want to do is try to force people to narrow their collections by only allowing them to purchase maybe one gun a month or two a month. And they think that this is somehow going to limit crime. But I mean, what we know is almost all mass shootings are occurring with one, maybe two firearms. So it's not as if these people are showing up with 40 or 50 weapons in the trunk of a car, and that's what allows them to enact the damage that they're able to enact. But even more so, another provision of his plan and of some of the bills that are being introduced is to reduce magazine capacity. So, you know, a lot of what we're doing on our website spurred from a conversation I had with a woman who called and was wondering why we didn't support Joe Biden. And I said, well, because he wants to ban a whole lot of things, including high capacity, or as I would say, standard capacity magazines. And she admitted that she voted for Joe Biden, that she didn't think Joe Biden was going to take her guns away, but she owned a Glock 19, which comes with 15 round magazines from the factory. And I told her that Joe Biden, his plan was that he wants to force her to give those away. And she didn't seem to find that to be a problem. And so that's when I realized, okay, we have a lot of gun owners in this country, especially new ones that joined the community, so to speak, in 2020, that either A, have no idea what Joe Biden's plan actually looks like, or B, and I think that this is worse, they actually know what's in Joe Biden's gun control plan, and they're going to be more than willing to comply with those things once they become law, and probably would be willing to rat out their friends, neighbors, family, and other people who own the same types of items but don't plan to comply. And that's what we really wanted to do with the splash page on our website asking if you voted for Joe Biden. We wanted to make sure that everybody is aware of what they voted for. And more importantly, we want the rest of the gun community to see that, you know, we need, in order to be a community, we have to have a shared set of values and principles. And none of the things that they're proposing fit into those core values that we should be supporting as a community. So we need to be very careful about who is part of that community, who we trust to speak for the community, and who is actually going to have our back when the rubber meets the road.
That's a good point. And when you talk about the collections and whether we know they can come, I look at it like this. They started the income tax. They said, oh, it's just going to be for the rich. And now look at it. Once they get these laws passed, in my opinion, they're coming for your safe at the house. They're already making sure that if you don't store your weapons the way they believe it, you're criminally liable, things like that. Some of the other things that bother me on this are just amazing. But let me ask you a couple other little questions here. How can people stand up right now, not only just going to Patriot companies like yourself, and I call you a Patriot company because you stand your ground. Fenix Ammo is doing a great job, and that's why we call you a Patriot company. How can people help you and help other companies, and are there other companies you would suggest?
Sure. There's a number of things people can do. The first is they need to get involved in true grassroots activism. So I am a life member of the NRA, but I will say that they're not the best people in terms of supporting what we really want, which is to roll back existing gun regulations, not just stop new ones. So companies or organizations like the Firearms Policy Coalition and Gun Owners of America are making great strides. So those are big organizations, but small grassroots organizations are very important. We're big supporters of Black Guns Matter in particular. Maj Touré is doing a ton of great work, reaching people in areas that have been historically neglected by the gun community and the industry as a whole. So that's very important. The other thing that's important is for gun owners to support local outdoor shooting ranges. Many of those ranges exist only because zoning laws have allowed them to exist, but as soon as they close, those cities are going to want to get rid of them, put in, McMansion type housing and places like that. So joining your local outdoor gun clubs, keeping those clubs alive, making sure that they survive the next generation, I think is one of the most important things that we can do, just to show that we are in fact a community and we have a lot of people that support us. So I would say those two things in particular, I think, are the best way for people to spend their activism dollars, so to speak. And then for people looking to purchase firearms or other equipment, look for other companies who are maybe not as outwardly brash as we are, but companies that really understand what the Second Amendment is about, which is being a right for the people, not just for government contracts and police departments. So, if you're looking to buy an AR-15, I suggest you find a company within your own state. There's a ton of boutique AR-15 companies that make great products. They're every bit as good as the big names, but it helps keep small businesses active in the community, which ultimately is important for growing the community outside of the major manufacturers.
Okay, that's good stuff. We had a couple questions come in. Two of them I'd like to ask you is, one of them, a lot of people are confused. They hear a lot of rumors about ammunition and shelf life and things like that. So my question one is, ammunition that we order online right now, does it actually have a shelf life? Is there some magical thing they've done to primers so it lasts less time? And the second thing is, do you feel that there's a shortage of ammunition across the country because of more a fear factor, or is there a situation such as raw materials to create the ammunition that has an effect, or the laws?
Sure. So as far as the shelf life of ammunition, if you keep it dry and in a cool area, it will last for about as long as there are people who buy the old spam cans of ammo that was manufactured during World War II and shortly thereafter, and it still works fine because they're in vacuum sealed packages. So as long as you store it properly, use desiccant packs to keep moisture out of your containers, keep it away from extreme heat and cold, it'll effectively last forever, 30, 40 years at a absolute minimum, depending how much moisture it was in the container when you sealed it up and how well it's sealed. So effectively, it can last for as long as you need it to. As far as the manufacturing and the shortages, it's a multi-factor problem. The demand at this point is unreal. It's unlike anything this industry has ever seen, totally unprecedented. So that is the primary problem. But the secondary problem is the industry is much more consolidated than what people understand. So there are only a small handful of companies in the United States that make primers. And unless you have primers, you can't make ammunition. So the shortage on materials is both from the standpoint of, COVID has reduced labor, it's reduced the amount of copper and lead mines that are operating at full capacity. But in addition to that, there are only so many manufacturing plants making primers out of that base raw material. And in the end, all of the ammunition manufacturing companies like us rely on a very small number of companies to produce those components that we need to actually assemble the product. So it's a multi-factor problem. When you have big spikes like this, it takes years to build primer plants and to procure the equipment and to go through runoff testing before any products are going to be getting into the hands of loaders or to the general public. So unfortunately, that time frame usually is longer than when these big buying surges last. So companies have to be very careful about how they invest tens of millions of dollars worth of their capital on the assurances that either pricing will stay elevated or demand will stay elevated. And unfortunately, it's very tough for them to make those decisions which ultimately means they usually don't make a decision. They keep their plants the same size they are, and ultimately the market suffers due to that inefficiency.
I appreciate that answer. At WeSpeak.com, we're going to continue on this. We're going to actually keep getting the information out to the people. And Justin, we're going to look forward to visiting with you and having you on the show many more times. We appreciate your professionalism. We appreciate everything you're doing. And people of America, we really strongly recommend you go to Fenix Ammo right now and put your order in. I know they're backed up, but they are doing amazing things to get product out to the people, and they do a lot more than just ammunition. Justin, can you tell us a little bit more about your store than just people think it's an ammo store? Actually, if they go to the site, they'll find it's a whole lot more. Can you explain some of the stuff you guys do?
Sure. So we are primarily an ammunition manufacturing company, but we also carry and sell products related to the firearms industry. We are a distributor for Spartan armor systems products, both plate carriers as well as AR 500, 550 steel, and composite ceramic and polyethylene body armor. We also do sell some products from Surefire and Streamlight, weapon lights, flashlights. We have some medical supplies from North American Rescue. So we try to touch on some of the things that we feel gun owners should have as part of their complete kit. You know, it's one thing to carry a gun; it's quite another to have a med kit in your car. A plate carrier and some other supplies for who knows what. But we see that the market is becoming more about the whole person concept and the completeness, firearms, medical, survival gear, things like that. People are going beyond just the having a gun and going to the indoor range, once a month and calling it good. So we try to do what our core competency is, which is ammunition, of course, but we try to touch on some of those other areas when we can.
Well, one of the things I really liked, and I'd like you to touch a little bit more, then we'll let you get back because I know you're busy, is you guys actually do a top-rate gun safety program through there as well, correct?
I'm sorry, say that again?
You guys actually run a top-rated gun safety program there as well, correct?
We don't personally run a gun safety program, but we are networked with a local company called Michigan Defensive Firearms Institute, MDFI. They're one of the best firearms training companies we feel in the country, and we're lucky enough to have them here in Michigan. So we've been working with them for a number of years. I myself have personally trained with them for over 100 hours at this point. All of my employees have done various training through their company and will continue to do so. We have a discount for the MDFI alumni and first-time members. So we're big advocates of training. We don't feel anybody should be required, but we hope that everybody feels that burning desire to be better trained, and we try to support those efforts as best we can. We're lucky to have MDFI here in Michigan, and we do support other training companies in other parts of the country as much as we possibly can, because we think it's very important.
I agree. Thank you for clearing that up. People, you can get to those programs by going to Fenix Ammo's site, and they can lead you to them. Hey, Justin, we thank you so much for being on the show today. We know you're busy helping people, putting in some long hours out there. We look forward to having you on again in the future to go over a lot more of this stuff. Is there any last things you want to tell the people of America before we sign off today?
Other than to pay attention to who votes on Bill H.R. 8 concerning universal background checks. There are about 20 Republican members of the House who have supported that bill. It's now going to go to the Senate, and all of those people should be primaried and should be utterly removed from any conservative party, whether you are a Republican or a Libertarian. It absolutely should not be tolerated. We know the Democrats are going to vote for that bill, but there shouldn't be a single Republican supporting it. So pay attention to those names and remember that when election time comes around.
All right. We thank you very much, Justin. We appreciate you coming on the show. We look forward to having you again very soon.
Thank you.
Justin has agreed to come back at least once a month with us to keep us updated on what's going on with our Second Amendment rights. He's going to keep an eye on Biden, and he's going to keep letting us know what we need to take care of. But here's the deal, people. We can't sit back and let people like Justin and the people at Fenix Ammo do all the work. We have to do the work ourselves. There's once a great saying that says all it takes for the forces of evil to take over our country is for enough good people to do nothing. Our call to action is now. Our call to arms is now. We need to stand for our First and Second Amendments. They're important. And with today's cancel culture, the out-of-control censorship of mega media platforms, we are literally losing our country. We need to stand up and make hard decisions like Justin has made. We need to find the companies that do not represent American values and standards and quit using them. Quit, get off, stop, everything. If they do not support America, then we should not support them. Get off the social media platforms who practice censorship. Get off the social media platforms who give their money to support the people that do not help you. Seek out and find people that stand for traditional American values. Give them your business, give them your support, and give them your help. As always, we welcome you on WeSpeak.com because we are a freedom of speech platform. And we're going to be here representing the people. From Ray Gilbride at WeSpeak.com, thank you. I hope you have an amazing day. And remember, be kind to the ones around you.